Hello and welcome to yet another session of business for grade 11. My name is Dilip. In today's video, I am going to explain you about business choices. Opportunity cost and choice. So first let's make it clear what is a choice. Choice is when we have two options, or we can say when we have two possibilities. Now you might be wondering, what is the relation between choice and opportunity cost? In short, we can say whenever there is a choice or a trade-off, there will be an opportunity cost. I'll make it more clear with some examples. Entrepreneurs and other business decision makers are frequently faced with choices. Choices in business refers to deciding between alternative use of resources. So in the previous classes, I have explained you what are the different resources for a business. It can be the land, labor, capital, raw materials. All these are different resources for the business. Now since these resources are limited, the business have to make some choices. Say for example, if a business get two projects, they may not be able to undertake both the project because their resources are limited. So they have to choose one among them. Such choices are common in life and are faced by individuals, businesses, and the government. So such choices are not only faced by businesses, it is also faced by individuals as well as the government. Now let's take an example in the point of view of an individual. A university student, after all living costs have been met, may have $50 left at the end of the week. This student would like to buy some new books for $20, get the train home for the weekend for $30, go out for a meal with friends for $30, or buy a new pair of designer jeans for $50. So you can see a lot of choices are there for the student. He can't buy everything because it would cost $130 total. So what he is left with is $50. So he have to choose between these different options he have. Either he can choose to buy books for $20 and get a train and go home for $30. So when he chooses to buy books and get the train back to his home, what he has to forego is a meal with friends and a pair of designer jeans. So there will be an opportunity cost. Now the term opportunity cost might be more clear to you. That means when we opt for something, when we have a choice, what we are foregoing, the benefits we would get from that we are foregoing is called as opportunity cost. Now let's take more examples. A government may have to decide whether to spend $5,000 million on increasing disability benefits, building new hospitals, providing better care for the mentally ill, or building a new motorway. So here the choice is whether to spend $5,000 million on increasing the disability benefits and for the health care, or to spend for a new motorway. So if the government spend this money on health care and disability benefits, the benefits from the transportation improvement will be the opportunity cost. Now yet another situation for a business. A construction business may have to choose between two projects, construct an airport or build a bridge, as they have limited resources. So in this example, the business has got two proposals. One is to construct an airport and the other one is to build a bridge. Both might be profitable projects for the business, but they can't undertake both the project at the same time because of lack of resources. So they have to choose one among these projects. Now, if the business choose to construct an airport, then the opportunity cost will be the profit that they would derive from building a bridge. So that is the thing that the business forego. Yet another example, assume that a business placed its spending desires in the order of preferences below. So here it shows certain preferences of a business. First preference is to spend on advertising. The next best alternative is retrain the workforce. And the next preference is redecorate reception area. And finally, buy new vehicle for sales staff. In this example, the advertising campaign is the preferred choice. Therefore, the $100,000 will be allocated to this project. So the business has $100,000 to spend, and their first preference is advertising. So they choose to spend this amount on advertising. Now you can see the next best alternative is retrain workforce, as it is shown in the order of preferences. So after advertising, the next preference is retrained workforce. So if the business spend on advertising, what they are foregoing will be the next best alternative, which is retrain the workforce. So the other three options are sacrificed or given up. The benefit lost from the next best alternative is called the opportunity cost of the choice. Now a definition is also given. Opportunity cost can be defined as the benefits lost from the next best alternative foregone when making a choice. So in this case, the benefit that a business get by retraining the workforce would be the opportunity cost. It can be sometimes quantitative or it can be qualitative as well. So by retraining the workforce, maybe the productivity might increase up to a certain level. That increase in productivity will be the opportunity cost for the business. Or it can be the increase in motivation or happiness of the employees, which may not necessarily increase the productivity, but still the happiness of the workers might improve. So that would be the opportunity cost of this business as they are investing into advertising. So here the $100,000 they are spending for advertising. So the next best alternative they forego is retrain workforce, and the opportunity cost is the benefits that they would have got by retraining the workforce, such as I told you, an increase in the output. Moving on to the next slide, non-monetary opportunity cost and choices. Opportunity cost can quite often be measured in monetary terms. However, there may also be some non-monetary or intangible benefits of staff training. So in the previous example, the next best alternative for go is staff training. For example, many workers may feel more confident in their work, and as a result, they may be more happier and more content. So in this case, the opportunity cost is non-monetary. We cannot measure the confidence and the happiness of those employees who are trained in a quantitative terms. So we can say these are non-monetary opportunity costs. So sometimes opportunity cost can be non-monetary. In most cases, it will be monetary. Opportunity cost may also be difficult to quantify because such costs are incurred in the future, and the future is so difficult to predict. So opportunity cost is mostly very unpredictable because we don't know whether it will happen or not, because a lot of uncertainties can happen. Business choice and trade-offs. Now, what are trade-offs? We have already seen what are business choices. Businesses have to make countless decisions, and decision makers are frequently faced with trade-offs. Actually, trade-offs are situations where businesses have to make a choice. Trade-off refers to a situation where a decision maker faces a compromise between two different alternatives. So, when there are two different alternatives, the decision makers have to compromise one and choose the other. For example, a company that prides itself on attention to detail must often sacrifice the speed of production. So, here there is a trade-off for this company. One is, if the company prides itself on attention to detail, that means the detail of the product. So, for example, if a company is focused on the quality of product, then very often they have to sacrifice the speed of production, because if you increase the speed of production, the quality might decrease or the detail might be lower. So, if you are paying attention to the detail or the quality of the product, you may have to sacrifice the speed of production. So, this is called as trade-off. The business have to sacrifice one in order to choose the other. It is necessary to take bigger risk to receive higher rewards. However, with high risk, there is the danger of large losses. So, in the graph you can clearly see the higher the risk one takes, the level of reward or the profit will be higher. So, the higher the risk, the level of profit, likely profit or loss will be higher. Whether it is a loss or profit, it will be very high if the risk is higher. Now, weighing up trade-offs. When business often faced with some trade-offs, how would you weigh up the trade-offs and how would you take a decision? When businesses are faced with trade-offs, the following actions might help to find the right balance. Obtain information. One approach would be to list the advantages and disadvantages of each choice and try to determine which carries the heaviest weight. So, when you have two options or two alternatives, or we can say trade-off, in this case the business can weigh up by listing out the advantages and disadvantages of these two opportunities. So, if the advantages are more in one option than compared to the other, you can opt that particular option, or if the disadvantages are less when compared to the alternative option, you can choose that particular option. So, this is one approach. Another approach is balancing short term with long term. Try to determine what might be given up in the long run for some important short term gain and vice versa. So, you have to consider which one will be more beneficial in the long run, or do you have to sacrifice something very expensive in the short run. So, weighing up this long run and short run benefits and cost, you can take a decision. Or else, measure the support. When weighing up alternatives, it might be appropriate for the decision maker to think about which key staff will support a particular idea and who will oppose it. So, while considering the advantages and disadvantages of weighing up the two options and alternatives, the decision maker can think about who will oppose this and who are the staffs that are going to support that. So, if more influensive staffs are supporting that particular option, you can take that particular option, or if more influencing staffs are opposing that, then better not to take that. So, this is yet another approach of weighing up trade-offs. So, that is all about the business choices. It is a very small topic, but apart from that, I would also like to explain about the answering pattern, because some students are finding it really difficult to answer the worksheets. So, I have just taken the marking scheme of the previous worksheet, which had 3 questions in that. The first question, define the term intrapreneurs. It is a 2-mark question. So, for every 2-mark question, what you have to do is just define the key term. Now, here the key term is intrapreneurs. You just have to define properly what is intrapreneurs. You will get 2 marks. The second question was, analyze one barrier to entrepreneurship that almost prevented Peter Santos from setting up his business. So, the question is, what made Peter Santos to turn away from setting up his business? The barrier to entrepreneurship. So, you can start your answer by identifying the barrier to entrepreneurship. Now, here from the case study, it is very clear that lack of finance would be one major barrier to entrepreneurship for Peter Santos. So, you can start the answer by identifying that barrier to entrepreneurship, like lack of finance would be one major barrier to entrepreneurship for Peter Santos from setting up his business. And then you have to explain this point as it is given here, as the cost of setting up the restaurant was going to be far more than he imagined. He was devastated and thought of giving up the idea. While explaining this point, you can use the applications here. He made appointments with 4 different banks to discuss funding, but none of banks was interested in lending him the $8,000 he needed to start the business. So, application is something that should be there throughout your answer while explaining this point. Okay. It is not just a sentence that you take from the case study. Do not take any sentences directly from the case study. You have to use these in the explanation. Okay. Now, moving on to the third question. Analyze 2 entrepreneurial characteristics that Peter Santos has that may have contributed to his success. So, here also you have to start with identifying the 2 entrepreneurial characteristics, or you can define entrepreneurial characteristics. You can turn back to the previous presentation. There is a definition for entrepreneurial characteristics I have given. Even I was explaining that definition also, or I will just repeat the definition. Entrepreneurial characteristics refers to the personality traits possessed by an entrepreneur when setting up his business. So, either you can define entrepreneurial characteristics, or you can identify the 2 entrepreneurial characteristics here. So, 2 marks for identifying 2 entrepreneurial characteristics that Peter Santos has, or you can define entrepreneurial characteristics also. Now, examples here is commitment and judgment. So, make sure when you write, do not write in point forms, it should be in sentence. That means, you can start like the 2 entrepreneurial characteristics that Peter Santos could possess is commitment and judgment. Then moving on to the explanation. His hard work and knowledge helped him find a good source of finance, that is peer-to-peer funding. When you explain this point, you have to use the applications given here. He wrote a detailed business plan, attended a local business course funded by Liverpool, and he have approached different banks, but he could not get the fund. So, he finally got the fund from a peer-to-peer finance. So, use the proper application while explaining that point. Now, the next point, he gathered information and with the advice of estate agents, he was able to search some suitable premises in a part of the city popular with Polish community. So, that shows the judgment, because he have contacted 12 estate agents and he have finally chosen a suitable location. So, he know what to do and what suits best for the business. That shows his judgment ability. So, commitment and hard work you can explain, and then the judgment. He have taken a decision and he have chosen a suitable location for the business after contacting 12 estate agents. So, this could be the application while explaining the second point. Okay. Hope you understood how to write the answer. So, there should be the knowledge part and analysis with proper application. So, knowledge is identifying the two characteristics or the two importance or the two advantages, whatever given in the question, or it can be explaining the key term in the question. So, you can write the knowledge in either way. Either you can define the key term in the question, or you can identify the two importance or two characteristics, whatever given in the question, and then explain these by using proper application. And remember, application is not just a sentence taken from the case study, it should be there throughout your answer. So, that is all for today's session. Thank you and have a nice day.